we're back again with Victor Antonio. This guy brings the energy, man, I'm telling you. So, Victor, I was out of President's Club this past weekend in San Antonio, had a blast, had a chance to talk to over 80 salespeople. And you know what a whole bunch of them kept talking about?
What?
They kept talking about Victor telling a story about triple cheeseburgers and selling options and presenting options. Give us a little bit of the triple cheeseburger that is so legendary with all your Orkin disciples.
Everybody, yeah, to be known for the triple cheeseburger, I don't know how I feel about that.
You don't look like you eat too many of them, though.
So what happened, well, let's back up. When you look at the brain's a fascinating thing, right? The brain is always about mitigating risk. So we'll give you the short version of this. Mitigating risk is always going to take the safest option. So when you present two options, what happens is the brain doesn't know who you are. So it'll say, you know what, let me buy the least expensive one so I can mitigate or minimize my risk, sure. Right? That's how the brain works, mitigating risk at every moment. Then what happens is when you put three options, it does the exact same thing. It'll say, it's like the Goldilocks effect, right? Too hot, too cold, just right. So that's what happens when you do the burgers. So when you give the customer three prices and they're dealing with you for the first time, this is something a customer you don't have, you're trying to acquire them for the first time. By having the three options, what they might say is, I don't know if I want to buy that much, but based on what you said, I know I need to buy at least this much. You know what, let's go with the one in the middle. And if you don't believe this works, just go to Wendy's, go to McDonald's, go to Starbucks. There are always three options. And what do you think the biggest profit margin is? The one in the middle, because they understand the psychology of buying. Now, this was also based on a study on Williams Sonoma. They had bread makers. Here's the fascinating thing. They had one, I think it was like at $2.79. Now, they just had one at $2.79, right? And so what happens is people were buying them, but then sales flattened out. So then they thought to themselves, let's create one that's $4.50. $2.79, $4.50. $2.79, $4.50. Now, here's the psychology. When you have one bread maker, since you don't have anything to compare it to, you don't know if that's expensive or not. So by itself, it's, no, maybe not buy it or do buy it, if you can afford it. By putting a second one, they wanted to move up market to get that high 10 to 20% status buyers who always want the best of the best. So they thought by introducing a new product, they would sell the bigger one and make bigger margins. But that's not what happened. What happened was people started buying the $2.79 one now. That one exploded. Why? Because now they looked at $2.79, the $4.50, right? And they said, oh, $2.79, $4.50. Now they're asking themselves a question. When there's one option, is this worth it? When there's two options, it goes, is it worth paying more? Because they didn't know, they mitigated their risk and went with the cheapest one. So really the triple option is all based on human nature, how we work. We mitigate risk at all turns.
Absolutely. And if you think about what you do personally, right? I mean, how you operate in your own life, right? I'm not a wine drinker, but when I go to a holiday party and somebody says, bring a bottle of wine, I say, I got to bring a bottle of Cab. So I go, is it the 30? Is it the 20? Is it the 10?
Great example.
I'm going right to the middle.
Right.
Now, if I'm buying an IPA, I might buy that triple cheeseburger. Yeah. But if I'm going to a party, I don't want to embarrass myself by bringing some,
right.
$5 chuck or $2 chuck.
That's a great example.
And I'm not spending more money than I think I should on wine. But I think to organize that just a little bit too, I think that's important. So when we go out, we talk triple bundles. When we share just a termite solution, or we share just an attic insulation or Orkin therm solution, why aren't we tacking on a mosquito service? Why aren't we presenting all three or four, maybe even five different bundled options to pull them all together? And then, as you so often say, just push them across the table when they get a little bit of shock and they're trying to figure it out. Well, your line, which one would you like? Take the ones out you don't want.
Right.
And I think you'll find out oftentimes as we've learned by pitching triple options that sometimes they buy all of them.
Right.
Which I think is super cool, right? And they wouldn't have bought it if you just, in this competitive market that we're in, if you just pitched a termite service, you might have left an insulation opportunity on the table, and you certainly may have left a pest control or a mosquito service on the table that you just because you didn't ask.
Yeah, I think, so we can tie up the previous episodes we've done, is that when you're presenting these options and you're trying to bundle the third one, make that the big one, again, as we're doing the process of walking through the house, going into the attic, doing whatever we do, speaking to the client, we're starting to mention these things. So when we finally get to the triple option and we do bundle the biggest one with all these services included, they know what's coming their way. Yeah. So it's about creating that sense of urgency through the walkthrough.
I think that, We've got folks that kill it. I mean, like I said,
Why do you think some people do it better than others, Ed?
I think there's a hesitancy. I really think there's a hesitancy of some folks that they're worried about making that one deal and they want to sell that single and they don't realize how much they're putting themselves in competition with everybody else. And I think particularly this time of year when we're getting inbound leads and people are getting bids, some of our folks fall into that trap by just offering that one service thinking they're safer by not asking for $12,000, $15,000, but asking for $2,800. So now your $2,800 single burger option is now being compared to a $1,500 termite service from Terminex. And you got to create $1,300 worth of separation. I think you stand a better chance of putting everything out on the table for that customer, presenting yourself as the Orkin Pro and asking for $15,000 versus asking for $2,500.
So what you're saying, if I could reinterpret it, so you're saying if you just sell a product, you're going to be compared with somebody else, right? You're going to be compared with somebody else, and that's an easy way of losing a deal. You're saying is if I offer a solution, because that's what we're talking about. How do I offer a solution? And that creates differentiation, because then it's very hard for my competitors to kind of one-on-one me that way. Is that a fair statement?
That's exactly it. And bundling solutions for the home to fix everything.
Correct.
You can't fix a real termite problem if you don't control the moisture coming off the gutters.
Right.
If you don't control the moisture underneath the crawl space. So by presenting all of them, I believe in my mind that you create immense separation from everybody else, just single serving.
Because you're looking at, I hate to use the word holistic, but I think it applies here, is that you're looking at the holistic problem, and then you're presenting back to the client, here's how we can solve all these issues, because your house is your biggest investment you have to make. Therefore, but again, I think you're right, that we think it's easier to sell one product, and we're scared to sell the bundle. And the bundle is where the gold is at. That's where the real ROI is.
And I think oftentimes we try to put ourselves in the customer's wallet. And we're spending money like we would spend it, right? Like I might not buy I might buy a triple cheeseburger, but you spend your wallet versus their money. Push them all out there. Let them make those decisions. And you might walk away with all 3, 4 services.
I love it. By the way, what you're saying again, you're killing it, because you're saying sometimes we assume based on what we would buy.
Yep.
So we assume that they wouldn't buy what we offer. So therefore, we kind of say no to ourselves before the customer says no. That sounded confusing, but I understood it.
I understood it. I understood it completely too. We're right here. Hey, let's get out of here on this one. We'll be back around the next time, but until then, continue to separate yourself from the competition and good selling.